Okay, let's dive into this. It feels like every single day there's a new crisis, right? A market panic, a sudden protest, another headline screaming about something historic. It's just exhausting. And it's so easy to feel like the whole world has gone completely off the rails. But what if it's not random? What if the engine that basically powered the entire 20th century has finally run out of gas? In this explainer, we're going to break down the hidden forces that are driving all this chaos and hopefully give you a new map to figure out our very weird new world.
And hey, you're not wrong to feel that way. It's a real feeling. The big idea we're digging into today is that the fundamental rules we all thought we were living by, they just don't match reality anymore. It's like we're all playing a game, but the rulebook we were given is for a completely different sport. So the real challenge isn't about getting better at the old game. It's about figuring out the rules of the new one before the clock runs out.
So here's how we're going to get from confusion to clarity. First, we'll look at the old world order and see how it completely fell apart. Then, we'll get into why that idea of individual success, pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, feels like a total myth to so many people. We'll trace the collapse of moral leadership, try to understand the rise of all these people who feel forgotten and left behind, and then finally, we'll explore what it might actually take to build a new formula for a more stable world.
All right, so to understand why things are falling apart now, we have to get really clear about what that old order actually was. See, after World War II, the world was basically defined by this massive competition between two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. And each of them was selling a totally different vision for how the world should work.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly, doesn't it? These were the two competing visions for humanity that defined the Cold War. On one side, you've got the Soviet model. Justice means nobody gets to be rich, and your job is to sacrifice for the group. The promise? Well, liberation is always coming later. On the other side, you've got the American formula. Justice means you get rewarded for what you achieve as an individual, and success, that's something you can get right here, right now, in this lifetime. It was this epic clash of the collective versus the individual, and it shaped pretty much everything for decades. But what happens when that American promise, that ladder to success, starts to feel, well, a little rickety? That brings us right to our second point. That core idea of meritocracy is facing a major crisis of faith. The belief that literally anyone can make it if they just work hard enough? Yeah, that's being seriously challenged by the reality of the world we live in today.
And the reason for this crisis is actually pretty simple. It matters, more than ever, where you start. Today's success is often a product of your environment. And I mean, think about it. Being born into the right family, having access to the right networks, getting into the right school, even just having the time and resources to think and create, these aren't just little bonuses anymore. They are the launch pad. Your environment has become a kind of capital. And if you don't have it, just trying hard often isn't enough to get you off the ground.
So, the crucial point here is that the modern path to success looks a whole lot like this. It starts with being in the right environment. That gives you access to capital and networks. And here's the kicker. If you're, say, a brilliant inventor from a weaker region, you almost have to move your talent to a place with a stronger environment where your ideas can actually take off. And the result? It's a feedback loop. The strong regions get even stronger, and the weak regions just get left further and further behind.
This old saying has just never felt more true, has it? That ideal of a level playing field, where justice is based purely on merit, well, it feels like it's been replaced by a system where advantage just piles on top of advantage. It's widening the gap between the people who have that launch pad and those who don't.
And when people start to believe the game is rigged, well, they stop trusting the referees. And you can see where this is going, right? This loss of faith in fairness leads directly to the next stage of the breakdown, the collapse of morality. For decades, the West projected itself as a moral leader, but over time, the moral language stayed, while the actions, they started telling a very different and much darker story.
We were told an invasion was absolutely necessary because of a threat that, as it turns out, just wasn't there.
And then, after 20 years of war, 20 years of sacrifice, a campaign that started with a crystal-clear objective ended by handing power right back to the very group we went there to remove.
We talk a great game about welcoming those in need, but then we trap them in these bureaucratic nightmares for years, denying them the very dignity we claim to be offering.
But for so many people, the final nail in the coffin, the moment the mask came off completely, was the invasion of Ukraine. You had a clear victim of aggression, a country that needed help, and the world's response was hesitation, cynical delays. The moral curtain was pulled back for everyone to see.
So, You take a world where merit feels like a joke and morality feels like a lie. What do you get? What's the political result of all that? Well, it's the creation of this huge group of people who feel completely forgotten, totally locked out of the successful world. They're the ones living with the consequences of these collapses every single day.
And there is just an abyss between these two worlds. They aren't just different neighborhoods, they are different universes. The successful world in the glittering cities, it defines itself against the so-called losers left behind in those decaying towns. And for the forgotten world, the problem isn't just about a lack of money. It's a deep, profound lack of respect. It's that gut punch feeling that you can work your tail off your entire life and get absolutely nothing for it, not even a shred of dignity.
And that feeling, that powerful feeling of being forgotten, it creates a massive political opening. And into that vacuum, you see ultra-right and nationalist movements rising up with a new and much simpler formula. Justice? Justice now means, hey, let's finally spend our money on ourselves, not on them. Morality? That doesn't apply to outsiders. And the goal is simple: to finally feel like the state cares about you, and that somewhere, somehow, our team is finally beating their team.
Which brings us to our final section. At the end of the day, all the chaos we're living through is the result of this fundamental mismatch. We are trying to use an old formula, an old rule book, for a world that just doesn't exist anymore. So if we want to rebuild a more stable order, we can't go back. We have to forge something completely new.
So, okay, how do we even start to fix this? Well, the source suggests there are 3 huge tasks ahead. First, we have to figure out a new definition of justice and morality that a clear majority of people can actually get behind and believe in. Second, we need to design a new kind of global immune system to push back against authoritarianism. And third, and this is a big one, we have to start investing in creating opportunity and hope in other places, not just at home, if we ever want to break this cycle of resentment.
But underneath all the grand strategy, all the politics, there's a simple, powerful truth that we can't forget. More than money, more than anything else, people want respect. And not just any respect. They want respect from the people that they themselves respect. If you don't have that, everything else just collapses into this primitive fight for power.
And so that leaves us and you with a final question to chew on. Looking ahead, what's really going to determine success and stability? Is it still the power of individual hard work like the old formula promised us? Is it really about your immediate circle, your family, your connections? Or is the single biggest factor just the national environment you happen to be born into? How you answer that is probably going to shape how you see the entire future unfolding.